history is a lie. Or at least, the version you were taught in school is sanitized. We like to believe that civilization is a steady march out of the darkness, that we left the monsters behind in the caves, but the earth remembers the truth. Beneath the floorboards of our cities, frozen in the ice of the Arctic, and hidden in the foundations of our oldest temples, lie discoveries that defy explanation. These aren't just artifacts, they are anomalies, evidence of state-sanctioned nightmares, lost technologies, and rituals so terrifying we tried to forget they ever happened. From the Tower of Skulls in Mexico City to the frozen vampire of Poland, I am the Archivist, and these are 7 terrifying discoveries that force the world to rewrite history. Number 1. The Great Skull Rack. For 500 years, historians accused the Spanish conquistadors of lying. When men like Bernal Díaz del Castillo arrived in the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan in 1519, they wrote letters back to Europe describing a city of impossible beauty, but also of industrial-scale gore. They described a massive rack of human skulls, a Tzompantli, flanked by towers built entirely of human heads, held together by lime mortar. Historians dismissed this. They called it war propaganda, hyperbole designed to justify the destruction of an indigenous empire. We told ourselves that no civilization could industrialize death on that scale. We were wrong. In 2015, archaeologists digging behind the Metropolitan Cathedral in Mexico City found a wall, but it wasn't made of brick. They uncovered the Huey Tzompantli, the Great Skull Rack of Tenochtitlan. The excavation revealed that the propaganda was actually a terrified eyewitness account of reality. This wasn't just a pile of bones, it was an architectural marvel of death. The archaeologists found a cylindrical tower, nearly 5 meters in diameter, and the construction technique is pure nightmare fuel. The skulls were not loosely stacked. They were cemented together using a binding agent made of lime, sand, and volcanic gravel. Think about what that implies. It implies a dedicated industry for processing human remains into building materials. But the real shock, the discovery that silenced the room, was the demographic profile of the victims. Conventional history told us the Aztecs fought flowery wars to capture male warriors for sacrifice, so the tower should have been filled with young men. But when forensic anthropologists analyzed the 650 skulls excavated from the tower, they found diversity. They found women. And most disturbingly, they found children. The presence of children proving that the sacrificial economy of Tenochtitlan was far more totalizing than we ever dared to imagine. These victims were made sacred. Forensic analysis of the bone weathering showed that these skulls had been displayed on wooden racks for months, until the flesh rotted away or was removed. Only then were they transferred to the mortar towers. Many of the skulls had holes drilled perfectly into their temples, standardized perforations that allowed them to slide onto the wooden poles. It stands today as a monument to a society where the line between masonry and humanity had been completely erased. If the Aztec Tower was a monument to state power, our next discovery reveals something far quieter and perhaps more disturbing. Number 2. The Discarded. In 1988, the Leon Levy expedition was excavating the ancient port city of Ashkelon in Israel. They were exploring the sewers beneath a wealthy Roman bathhouse, a place that once echoed with the sounds of luxury, running water, and civilized life. But in the drain pipes below, the researchers hit an obstruction. The pipes were clogged with debris, But as they sifted through the muck, they realized the obstruction was composed of thousands of small bones. This wasn't a grave, it was a gutter. The bones were mixed with the remains of sheep, broken pottery, and old coins. It was refuse. Forensic anthropologist Patricia Smith examined the remains of nearly 100 individuals recovered from the filth, and she found a smoking gun in the enamel of their teeth. In human development, the physical stress of birth leaves a microscopic mark in the dental enamel known as the neonatal line. These infants had no neonatal lines. This meant they did not survive past the immediate postnatal period. They died within 24 to 48 hours of taking their first breath. There were no signs of violence, no crushed skulls. They had likely been suffocated or simply dropped into the drains while still alive, washing down into the dark to accumulate for decades. But the true horror was in the DNA. In the Roman world, female infanticide was a grim reality. Daughters required dowries. They were viewed as financial liabilities. So scholars assumed these were unwanted girls. They were wrong. DNA analysis of the femurs revealed a twist that no one expected. 14 of the 19 samples tested were male. Why discard sons? The answer lay in the building above. The bathhouse likely doubled as a brothel. For a brothel, a female infant was a potential asset, a future source of labor. But a male infant? He was a strict liability, an extra mouth to feed who could not earn. Above, the wealthy citizens of Ashkelon bathed in warm water. But beneath their feet, a generation of boys was washed away, treated not as human beings, but as industrial waste. The skull rack of Mexico and the sewers of Ashkelon. Two monuments to how easily human life can be industrialized and discarded. But the archive is deep, and we have only scratched the surface. In the next file, we are going colder. We will examine the man frozen in ice for 140 years, whose eyes are still watching. The children drugged and walked into the sky to die. The Swedish Pompeii, where a massacre left dinner burning on the fire. The vampire buried with a sickle across her throat. And the screaming mummy, whose agony was frozen in time for 3,000 years. History is a nightmare. Do not sleep through it. Subscribe to the Anomalous archive and be here when the next file opens.